So I was looking under skin cancers, and I came across a paper in 1959 that mentioned that you could treat early skin cancers with vitamin A. Vitamin A is absolutely essential to allow us to continue a normal life.
What is the purpose of vitamin A in the actual cell itself? Why do we have that? And why do we need to supplement?
Number one.
This is Skin Talks, the podcast where we go deeper than skin, products, and trends and explore the conversations that actually matter in health, beauty, wellness, and confidence.
We're a mother-daughter duo and the founders of Boutique Skin Envie. After years inside the industry, we've learned that health is never just about what you use. It's about everything you digest, how you think, how you live, what you eat, how you move, what you put on your skin, and how you feel in your own body.
If you're looking for insight, honesty, and a fresh perspective on the future of health, beauty, and wellness, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it.
Skin Talks podcast by Boutique Skin Envie, hosted by Beate and Natascha.
Today, we're joined by Dr. Fernandes, a world-renowned plastic and reconstructive surgeon and the founder of Environ Skin Care. He's credited as one of the first surgeons to introduce vitamin A therapy into medical skincare, and his lifelong work has reshaped how we understand the skin's ability to heal, rebuild, and age gracefully. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Fernandes.
Dr. Fernandes, welcome to Skin Talks. We're so excited for today's conversation. But before we really dive into everything retinol A and skin health, why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory for our listeners of how you ended up in this career and in this industry?
Well, it was definitely not by planning. It was purely sort of coincidences. It started off when I actually had a patient who had a melanoma. And he was a young guy. We were trying to save him. We were cutting out 50 melanomas or so at a time from him. And he was very brave. And eventually we lost. And I remember walking away from his room where he had died. I was, sort of feeling rather sad. And then it struck me, we're not very good at treating conditions. In medicine, it has always been said we must look for the prevention of the problem. So instead of heading to my car and driving home, because it was around about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, I went to the medical library. And I started a mission of going through the Index Medicus, which is a whole big compendium of all papers that had been published. That's when I was looking for skin cancer, because at that stage I lumped melanoma together with basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma. I thought it was just a variant of where this was happening. And so I was looking under skin cancers, and I came across a paper in 1959 that mentioned that you could treat early skin cancers with vitamin A. Now, it just turned out that I had been using vitamin A since about 1976. And we're now talking about 1979. And the reason why I was using it, I had been at a conference and somebody had mentioned that vitamin A was being used to make beautiful scars. Now, as plastic surgeons, that's one of the things we really need to do. So I had been working with that, and then following that, there also came the news, the early news from Philadelphia, where they were using vitamin A acid to treat acne. It just happened that I had a number of friends, and I was treating their children for the acne. And then one day, on my 40th birthday, this woman came in and she told me that she was using vitamin A acid, the same cream that I was using to treat her son, to treat herself. And that was in 1982. And I looked at her skin, and she had beautiful skin. And so then I decided, look, I'm going to start using vitamin A on my skin, vitamin A acid, Retin A as it was then. And I couldn't use it because I was very sun damaged. And so I had almost no vitamin A receptors on my skin cells. So I got a retinoid reaction, and I got a very severe retinoid reaction. And but at the same time, I knew the science was right.
Mm-hmm.
Because then as you start to, you discover that vitamin A is naturally in our skin, not as the acid. It's only as the acid in a very tiny amount. But what's in the acid is what we call the esters of vitamin A. That's retinol palmitate.
Mm-hmm.
That people used to say was the useless form of vitamin A because it doesn't make changes. But that was how people saw it then. I saw it differently when I realized suddenly in about 1986, when I'd been struggling with the vitamin A acid on my skin for so long, I realized that actually all of our cells are factories to convert retinol palmitate, a retinol ester, into the active form, retinoic acid, because it's only the retinoic acid that works. And we do this every minute of the day, where our cells are busy changing vitamin A storage form, the retinol esters, to the effective form, which is retinoic acid. In that transition from the retinol palmitate to the retinoic acid, you get retinaldehyde. And they are just transient molecules that are required to convert the retinol ester into the active form. And that was my eureka moment when I realized that now I could make a cream for my patients. I'd already started on a step-up system for the retinoic acid. And then I realized this is what we've got to do for vitamin A in general, because I soon enough found that when we were using retinol palmitate in the doses that I wanted to use it, we were causing retinoic reactions,
Which is quite uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable.
Is that like the burns?
Yeah, it's when your skin gets very red, often in the neck area, right? You can get...
and sometimes you peel. And I remember one time a patient came to see me, and, by then I was doing only facelift. And she leaned over and said, just hang on a second, you've got something on your skin. And she pulled off this flake of skin. And it wasn't a peel or anything like that, but it was a retinoic acid. You could say a retinoic acid peel. And so I explained to her, this is the cream that I'm going to suggest you use.
She's like, oh, wow. Lucky me.
That's intense.
Yeah. So that's a very interesting story, a very interesting start to this whole discovery of what it is.
Yes.
I need some clarification just for myself and also maybe for our listeners. Like, retinol is a very big buzzword, right?
Yes.
Like retinol, you have to have it in your routine. It's like very recommended. But for somebody who's listening, like, if we can put it in like the most basic terms, like retinol, you're saying retinolic acid, you're saying retinol palmitate. Like, what is retinol in terms of what you were just saying for somebody to like kind of identify what it means in the system?
So what it is, it's an alcohol form of vitamin A. And now the interesting thing is that in the body, you've only got about at least 3% of your vitamin A in your body is retinol. That's if you took a slice of skin now, or any tissue, that's what you're going to find. That something like 90% of your vitamin A is retinol palmitate,
Okay.
retinol esters. And 3% is retinol, 3% is retinaldehyde, and 3% is retinoic acid. Now, the retinol, the retinaldehyde, and the retinoic acid are very irritant to cells. Retinol, we can't actually make creams with high doses of vitamin A as retinol. Because, and I tell you that we tried this, because I've tried everything I've tried myself. Retinol will make holes in your skin if it was as strong as the retinol palmitate creams that we make.
Okay.
You see, and the same thing with retinaldehyde. The body does not want too much of these because they destroy cell membranes.
Mm-hmm.
And the retinoic acid, it's inside the nucleus of the cell. That's where it gets formed. So this natural change from the storage form to the active form occurs in little tubules that lead to the nucleus. And by the time the vitamin A gets to the nucleus, it's retinoic acid, and that's where it acts on the DNA.
Oh boy, this is like very intense information. So what I want to know is, there's 2 points, and hopefully this question doesn't come across as like very, very, junior, but so the body produces its own vitamin A in the nucleus, in the cells. This is what I'm understanding. And then we are topically supplementing with vitamin A through skincare. But what is the purpose of vitamin A in the actual cell itself? Why do we have that? And why do we need to supplement?
Yes. Number one, it's a vitamin. We do not make it. There are some animals that will make vitamin A, and a good example is a cow or a pig. And a chicken. They will make vitamin A and store it in their skin. The humans can't do this, so we've got to supplement it in our diet. Now, when does vitamin A start acting is what we should ask ourselves.
Okay.
And because it reveals a lot. It starts acting the moment the ovum is fertilized by the sperm cell.
Mm.
Oh.
Because that single cell must now divide into two,
Mm-hmm.
and 4 and 8, and et cetera, et cetera. And vitamin A is the mechanism by which the genetic material is able to divide into two and carry on. So it's intensely responsible for growth of cells.
Okay.
Now, the next thing is, of course, cancers are growth of cells.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to realize that what vitamin A is also doing is controlling the cell growth. And also it then makes the cells mature. So first of all, they have to differentiate because, for example, a heart cell must become a heart cell, a lung cell must become a lung cell, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Now, vitamin A is involved in that intensively. So it's getting our bodies. We actually make the fetus because of the vitamin A activity, and then of course we've got to get those cells to mature and become what we are.
Mm-hmm.
And vitamin A is constantly involved in that. Now the problem is, in my heart, the vitamin A, gets it from my bloodstream, from my nutrition, you see. So the liver then controls how much vitamin A is released into the tissues. The skin is in a strange situation vitamin A that comes in can't go out. In all other tissues, the vitamin A can go into that tissue, sort of be used there for a bit, and if it's not required, it will just go into the bloodstream. But in the skin, it's very different. And the thing is this, that in my heart, I'm not exposed to sunlight. All my other tissues, I'm not exposed to sunlight. I don't have to worry about the sunlight. In my muscles, even if I'm skinny, my muscles are deeper than where the sunlight, the UV rays can reach to destroy the vitamin A. So all those tissues are in the dark. They don't suffer vitamin A deficiency unless you are vitamin A deficient. But your skin is quite different. The vitamin A is very sensitive to UVB and UVA light. And it actually, in a way, is stronger than most of the chemicals that we use to make sunscreens. But what's happening is the molecule, vitamin A molecule, absorbs the energy of the UV rays and then gets destroyed.
Yeah, okay.
So as a result of that, we get a deficiency of vitamin A in our exposed skin. Now, most people are not very willing to sort of be told, oh, you've got a deficiency of vitamin A in your skin, because they'll say, oh, but I eat so much, healthy foods and so on. Thing is this, that the vitamin A, sorry about that, the vitamin A does not get replaced as rapidly as it gets destroyed. And they've done research about this. They've put this guy on a beach, I think, and exposed him to intense sunlight for, say, 4 hours or 3 hours. I don't know the exact time. But basically, he dropped his vitamin A to around about 30% of the normal level, which is an extreme drop. They then took him along and put him in a dark room. It took 7 days before his skin vitamin A levels returned to what they had been before he went into the sunlight. So the one thing we can be sure, nutrition is not enough. And that's why topical applications become so important, because with a topical application, within 3 hours, I can get his skin levels right up to normal.
Okay.
Or close to normal as we can make it, I would say. That's a better statement.
So let's say, for example, somebody is using vitamin A already topically, and they are exposed to the sun. Does it maintain a higher level rather than decreasing it? Does it sort of a protection of vitamin A?
Yeah. Say you've got 100% of vitamin A in the morning when you wake up. And then you put on your creams, and maybe say you boost it up to 150. And I think that we can manage to boost in that degree. And then you go out into the sunlight and you start destroying the vitamin A. So, for example, you walk from your car, and I'm talking about in Europe, sort of not quite as north, or I think Canada is more north than most of Europe, but I may be wrong. Now, you walk say to your car, or you walk towards the underground to go to work. That little walk in sunlight there probably depletes you in of about 3 to 5% of your vitamin A. And the other thing is this, that it doesn't matter if it's summer or winter.
Yeah, of course.
If there's light there, because the UV rays are generally even coming through clouds, because the longer UV rays tend to not be blocked at all.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, you've lost some vitamin A. Now, 3 to 5%, you'll probably replace that with about 2% by the next morning. But you've lost 3.
Yeah.
Now, if you think of it this way, if every day you threw 10 cents away, you wouldn't worry about it. You dropped to 10 cent, you're in a rush, you walk on.
Yeah.
But do this for 20 years. How much?
It's a lot.
That amounts to a
Accumulation.
significant amount.
Yes.
And that's what happens with the sun damage. It's a cumulative.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the problems of deficiencies of vitamin A. So that's why I think vitamin A is absolutely essential to allow us to continue a normal life. Many people make the mistake, they think they might have to stay out of the sun, but that is a bad mistake to make. It's, I think, actually a fatal mistake to make. We need the sun. It does various good things for us, but there's certain conditions. It has to be midday. It has to be at the right time of the year. For example, up in Canada, you're still going to destroy your vitamin A every day you go out into light. But you won't get any UVB rays until summer, say, or the end of spring and the beginning of autumn.
Yeah.
From that period, we can make some vitamin D. And vitamin D is, I think, the deficiency of vitamin D is something pernicious. We have to recognize its value in preventing cancers. So what I want people to do is I want them to put on the cream and safely go into the sun.
Yeah, and get your vitamin
Because
D.
get your vitamin D in the midday period and don't get as damaged to your stores of vitamin A as would normally happen.
So ultimately, you would recommend that everybody has a vitamin A supplementation, like cream, in their routine to make sure that, like, at least you're not like crashing down your vitamin A, but you're still somewhat maintaining it, even if you're out in the sun.
That's right. I'm not a megalomaniac, but I actually believe everybody in the world should use vitamin A every day to keep their skin safe. And I actually also include oral vitamin A, because I think we have to realize that vitamin A seems to be anti-carcinogenic. We're not able to use its powers as an anti-carcinogen as well as we would like to, but I think virtually every oncologist recognizes that vitamin A is an essential part of good nutrition to sort of try and keep control of cancers.
Now, I want to know, selfishly, because it says that, like, when you're pregnant, that it's not recommended to use retinols. So what happens to pregnant women or even breastfeeding when they are consulted to stop using vitamin A supplementation throughout their pregnancy and maybe perhaps breastfeeding? Like, what happens to them? Are we just like out of luck?
Yeah, it's quite a dilemma because, for example, if you have a look at the Japanese population, they eat a lot of fish. They've got you would expect that they actually have a vitamin A rich diet. That's so. Actually, what the Department of Health found out is that most women of childbearing age are about 80% of the ideal level of vitamin A in the skin.
Okay.
Not in their skin, in the blood, sorry. So they're deficient when they start their pregnancy. And then the government has a little paper that says, these are the foods that we recommend you eat or don't eat. And they persuade people to avoid eggs, avoid liver, things like that. So they're putting them on a low vitamin A diet, but they started off as vitamin A deficient, and they haven't yet sort of thought that out and I think that we really have to do that. Now, the interesting thing from a skin point of view is that, remember I told you that vitamin A comes into the skin, but there's no mechanism to take it out. And we have to have certain enzymes to take it out, and the skin doesn't have those enzymes. So technically, you could, like if somebody, all my friends, if they ask me, should they stop their vitamin A when they're pregnant, I've said to them, it's up to you. If I were the person pregnant, I would think, I think I'm just going to carry on because vitamin A is so important for all of our cells. And I don't see that we should try and get lower levels of vitamin A.
So I just have a question. So why is it recommended then by most health organizations internationally?
Because they don't test on it.
No, but why would they decide even in the first place to remove that from
It's the same with acids
from the diet or from topical use? Why what is the reason behind that?
Well, look at this situation that we have in Europe. The European Scientific Committee have passed a ruling that you can't use more than a certain level of vitamin A on your skin. Doesn't matter how healthy or what your nutritional status is. And they say vitamin A can be absorbed into the bloodstream. Now, when you look at it, I think something like 0.0001% of the vitamin A that you apply onto your skin can get into the lymphatic system. That's not the bloodstream. And then through that, because the lymphatic system connects to the bloodstream, can get into the bloodstream. So it's a very, very tiny bit of vitamin A that can get into the bloodstream. Most of the time when I can't do the analysis, but there are research workers who have done this, and they find you cannot detect the vitamin A in the bloodstream, and they use radio-labeled vitamin A. So the European Union says, they want to be 100% certain.
Okay,
about
so it's
anything.
just precautionary, just in case.
There's no proof. They've got no proof that vitamin A gets into the bloodstream, or that vitamin A has ever caused, as a skin application, has ever caused a problem.
Interesting.
So, but they say for safety, this is what we recommend.
Yeah.
And they won't change their minds. And I've written to them and given very similar information, and they just acknowledged my letter.
Not
They
interested.
didn't try and answer it. I know one of the members on the committee, and she says, it's you can't talk science and sense to the legislators.
Interesting.
They've been brought up to believe vitamin A is a problem.
It's interesting. Now, I would be
Very
curious. I want to
interesting,
know, again, talking about, vitamin A, this is what the podcast is about. For somebody who never supplements with vitamin A versus somebody who supplements with vitamin A, I'm talking topically throughout their lifetime, what kind of difference will you see in the skin? For somebody
Quite enormous. And I've got this. I'm 83, and my colleagues, when I spoke to them in 1989 about joining me, I chose 10 colleagues, And I said, this is something that's good for plastic surgeons because if you've got good skin, you make beautiful rejuvenation, you see.
Yes.
And anyway, they didn't use vitamin A. And when I'm at a conference, many of the people say, but did you study under them?
Oh.
But in many cases, I was their senior.
So you're looking much more, your skin is much more
healthier
youthful.
Skin, yeah.
More youthful.
Much healthier skin and so on. But, and they have got wrinkles and pigmentation and so on. And their faces have changed quite drastically. Yeah. I think age is not kind to any of us. Yeah. But for them, it's been particularly unkind.
Oh, my goodness. Hopefully they're not listening to this podcast or this episode, I should say.
So then how would you, because I like what I mentioned before, retinol is such a buzzword and there's so many brands that have put out like products that are like containing retinol, but like not really containing.
Well, it's like, what's the percentage? It's often it's like a marketing buzzword, right?
Yeah. So it's a buzzword. So a lot of times it says like retinol, like there's like retinol body creams and retinol body washes and this word's being so overused. How would you recommend for somebody who's never, let's say, used it, who's listening to this episode and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to start topically applying vitamin A. How do you direct them into this world starting and choosing a product that's actually good
effective?
In that way, you're talking to the wrong person, because I say I use retinol, I use retinol propionate, I use retinol acetate, retinol palmitate, and I've done some work with retinaldehyde, but it's an expensive form of vitamin A. And actually what you have to realize is whatever you put in international units, and this is where people make the mistake. They talk about percentages. But in fact, you have to look at how many international units of vitamin A or retinol equivalents of vitamin A are you putting on the skin. Because only when you use the international standards can you compare one product to another. Now, if I'm in Europe, the maximum, and in America too, the maximum dose of vitamin A for a cosmetic is recommended to be something like 50,000 international units. Now, if we have to compare that to Retin A, say, something like that, it's very similar. Retin A in the stronger version is something close to 50,000 IUs.
Okay.
Now, if I use, what I do is I will put somebody on a retinol palmitate, a retinol ester as the beginning when they're starting with their regime. And I have the step-up system that we go from strength to strength until eventually we're right up at the top level. So then sometimes I'd say, well, actually we need to cheat a bit. So why don't you add say retinol to your retinol palmitate product. And in the retinol, I can't take more than 10,000. 10,000 are international units, and it then starts to become destructive. And it's the same thing with retinoic acid. You can't have too much. The Japanese did a study where they used 4 times as much as the strongest version of retin A, which was a 0.1%. And what they found is that they actually caused ulcers because it's tumor. It's toxic to cells. So what I do is I want to keep the softer types of vitamin A for when people start and when they're building up, and then to if you need to add, you can add, say, retinol. Retinol is reasonable because it's not too expensive. And if 10,000 international units of retinol is going to make 10,000 international units of retinoic acid. So that's why we use the international unit to try and compare apples to apples.
Okay.
And so when you're looking at a retinol, like a lot of retinol products, it's retinol 0.25, 0.3%, 0.5. What is that percentage in terms of, does it have any correlation to IUs?
No, that's the problem.
Okay.
I can buy retinol at, say, 1,500,000 international units per gram.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can buy it at 500 international units per gram. So when I put that into the cream, I tell you the percentage that I put in.
Oh, I
0.3.
see.
And when you look at the percentages, you can't work out how strong is this, because you say, for example, you had a 1% of the 1,500,000, or would you prefer a 2% of the 500,000?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
You can see that the 1% is much stronger than the 2%.
Yeah, that's why also when you think about in our industry, we work with a lot of professional grade, medical grade brands, including Environ, one of our most beloved brands that we carry at Boutique Skin Envie. We do very, very well with it. Whenever somebody wants to switch a retinol system, for example, if they want to go from one brand to another brand, they say, well, I use a 1% in this brand and I want to use a 1% in this brand. I said, well, you still have to start low. You have to restart the system, because you could be on a 1% from this brand and do a 1% from that brand and have a retinol reaction very easily. And it's happened to me personally. That's why I'm speaking from experience. But how you explain it really helps me to understand the whys, right? So there's a lot of marketing. And I wanted to also ask you along those lines is, from what I understand, retinol is a very, very difficult ingredient to manufacture. It's very, very volatile. And so it has to be manufactured under certain conditions, and how it's stored in packaging needs to be usually dark, airless, and also lightless containers, right? Blocking light, blocking air. So
That's right.
And so we see a lot of retinol creams and like such things in jars, and it says contains 5% retinol, blah, blah, blah. Actually, if you ever tested those products, can you confirm that if you're opening up a jar of a cream, that actually it's you're laughing. So you've answered my question.
So, when I started, I put everything into metal toothpaste tubes.
Yeah.
It was the only way to protect the vitamin A. Yes. And we also manufacture under red or yellow light. We found the yellow light is similarly protective to the vitamin A, but you can see better in yellow light than you can in red light.
Yes.
And the other thing is that we work under nitrogen blankets. You know, the mixers have got not air in them; they've got nitrogen, so that you're not going to get oxidation of your the ingredients that you put in.
And it keeps the percentage of, or the potency of the product more effective. There's also something else that I've heard over the years, and I just wanted to clarify. There's two things. The first thing is retinol, when you mix it with other types of ingredients, you can often neutralize the effectiveness of the retinol as well, right? So even if you put in a high percentage per, like we talked about previously, if you mix it together with an AHA, let's say a glycolic acid, does it neutralize?
I don't think so.
No, okay. So this,
I would, and I'm sort of not frightened if somebody turns around and says, I prefer this retinol to mix with this cream. Okay. That's fine, because you're using vitamin A. And if the cream is made by a reputable company, you can be sure that they're putting it in. They're not putting it in jars. If anybody comes to you
Or
with a
mixing
jar
it,
of
yeah.
antioxidants or vitamin A, what can you do except laugh and say, "Well, you
Yeah.
deserve what you sought for." Yeah.
So I always love these conversations because I find that over the years we accumulate this information. We're influenced by different sources of conversations and messaging that comes from brands, and it really helps to kind of debunk the myths. Let's talk about retinol and why most people are scared of it. Retinol is powerful, but when it's too strong or poorly formulated, it can destroy your barrier, cause inflammation, and eventually speed up visible aging. Healthy skin shouldn't have to peel or burn to get results. That's why we recommend starting with Skin Medica's Retinol Complex 0.25. It's the start low and go slow formula, time-released, buffered, and gentle enough for beginners, but still effective at smoothing texture, refining pores, and boosting collagen. You get long-term results without sacrificing your skin barrier. And if you're traumatized by retinol in the past, try this one instead. Use code SKINTALKS15 at BSkinEnvie, spelled BSKINENVIE.ca for 15% off your first order. The other part of the conversation, the second part of the question that I had was, I've often heard that prescription retinols, so what you would get prescribed by a doctor that you have to go to a pharmacy to source, versus a medical grade or a professional grade like Environ, that the prescription grade is better for you and that it's more effective. And I hear that from a lot of patients and stuff in our clinic. And I just think to myself, I'm not sure I entirely agree. So I'd like to know your opinion on that.
Well, I'd like to point out one thing. What's the expiry date of the product?
Okay.
And what I've found is that many retinoic acid products have a 3-year shelf life.
Okay.
Now, if I made a retinoic acid product, and I certainly did, when I was working on the research work in the 80s, I think 6 months to maybe a year, and you start losing the activity of the vitamin A. Like all active ingredients degrade over time. And so it's quite instructive to look at the manufacture date or the best buy date in different countries. They have different ways of expressing it. But with the medical forms, it's usually 3 years. Now, probably, if say you bought the one that's now 3 years old, you probably got no vitamin A in it.
Okay. So it really doesn't have anything to do with the source of where you get your product from. It's more got to do with the expiry date of the product.
Yeah, and the other thing is this, that when you buy a cosmetic cream today, I think many more companies are doing what I did in the 89, 90, to have antioxidants with vitamin A.
Yeah.
Now, it costs so much to make a medicine. They're not going to spend millions to get it, the vitamin A now with vitamin C or vitamin E. They didn't put it in the beginning, and they can't put it in now, and because it'll be an enormous waste of money.
Okay.
So I think that we have to look at it. Maybe the company puts in a peptide as well as the vitamin A.
So it's more comprehensive formulations that you'll find in.
I think that in that way, you can get better effects. But at the same time, I will tell you that I have seen people who have been on Kligman's original trial.
Okay.
And they have beautiful skin because they've probably used retinoic acid well, certainly they will be getting it very fresh. And so retinoic acid can make really stunningly beautiful skin, but so can you do that. You can do that with the retinol palmitates, the retinol, etc.
The important thing is to start using it. Is there anybody in your opinion that should not be using retinol?
Yes, people with sensitive skins don't like retinol.
Well, you have actual sensitive, like
I have reactive skin.
But like to retinol, there's a slight like intolerance and but you weren't always intolerant.
No, it's because I overdid it in the beginning. I really went, I didn't
acclimate.
I didn't at all. I went on a 1% twice a day and it was just ridiculous. But I've been using retinols since. I just have to be very careful on the frequency, and I can feel it right away when I've gone too hard. So I back off a little bit. So, I think being intuitive with your skin also. And sometimes they say to do things like sandwiching. If you have like an intolerance, put a little bit of, let's say a hyaluronic acid, or a moisturizer on your skin, and then layer over top the retinol in the beginning, just to kind of ease things in. But yeah, I can build up my tolerance, or I have built up my tolerance from that time. And
I'm an example building up the tolerance because I was sunbathing my whole life.
Yeah, but you don't look like it. That's the amazing thing. When I look at you, you don't look like it at all.
Yes, and that's why I sometimes show in lectures what my eyelids looked like in the 1980s. I had lots of wrinkles, and so what happens is that vitamin A, at least sunlight, destroys your vitamin A receptors on your cell walls. Because, the most important thing is that when you apply the cream, it must get down to the active area where you want it, and it must be absorbed into the skin. And it only gets absorbed if you've got enough receptors. Now, when you sunbathe like I did, well, you destroy all those receptors.
Maybe you have not as strong receptors, which
at
is
the
why.
Time, maybe.
Yeah.
At the time.
And so now the paradox is that the only way you're going to build receptors is apply vitamin A to your skin.
You got to work through it.
So then, people will get a retinoid reaction. And by the way, children, 4-year-olds, something like that, never get a retinoid reaction from vitamin A. And we've got many examples of mothers who decided that their children must use vitamin A right from childhood.
So
the youngest person that I know that mother put her on it was 4 months old, and I am in touch with her mother, who tells me what beautiful skin her daughter's got. But I haven't actually seen the person now because they're in their 20s.
Okay.
And I would love to see the skin. But, at 20, most people look good skin.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I wanted to ask you something else. Can you start, does retinol have a positive effect at any age that you start? Let's say you're somebody who's never used retinol in your entire life. You're in your 50s. You've got sun damage. You've got lots of fine lines and wrinkles, loss of tone, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Can you just start it at any age and see significant difference?
Yeah, I was very interested to find out the answer for that. And that's why what we did is we took people even in their 90s.
Okay.
And put them on the vitamin A. And you know what? You induce changes. So it's never too late. But of course, if you're terribly wrinkled, you're going to get some effacement of wrinkles and healthier skin, but you're still going to have the sag and so on that has occurred to you. So while it's not too late, and where I was especially interested in, because I believe that vitamin A prevents skin cancer or stabilizes skin, and then not so many skin cancers develop. And so we were looking at 80-year-olds and seeing how their skin changed. And indeed, if you do the histology, you find that the skin is more normal. As a matter of fact, in the one case, I remember I was with the histologist, and I knew what the treatment had been for the various skin slides that I was showing, that he was looking at. And like in the one case, he said, this person is going to get skin cancer in the next year or two. And then sometime later, he got another slide, which was actually the slide of the person's skin 6 months later. And he said, no, this is normal skin.
Just by implementing in the retinol. I love that.
Just by putting in the vitamin A, yeah.
So the last question I have before we do our signature closing is, we always know that retinol should be used at night. And there's a lot of misconception around retinol causing sun sensitivity. Could you debunk that for us?
Yeah, look, it certainly does cause sun sensitivity.
Okay.
And I think that it's a good idea to use it at night, because then in the morning, it's already converted to the retinol palmitate. So you don't have an irritant around. And but like, I'm adventurous, and I use retinol morning and night, and have done it for a long time. Now, there's a strange thing. In many countries, they say in summertime you mustn't use vitamin A.
Yeah, it drives me crazy.
Because it's always like that.
Yeah, it's in Japan and it's in Europe like that. And I'm sort of, don't they understand you destroy the vitamin A in summer, and you don't destroy as much in the winter?
So it should be the opposite, if anything.
Yes. And what I found is that in winter, you must drop your levels if you've got sensitive skin. Some people, in the beginning, when I started, I had to drop. Nowadays, I don't change it, because it just, I've built up all the receptors I need.
Okay.
And so, like, how often do you recommend that somebody's using, I mean, you use it morning and night, but like for the average
newbie,
how often is it? Something like 3 times a week? Like, are you trying to build up to every single night?
Well, you've basically said it, start low. And we add one other thing, go slow.
Yes. Yeah, we say that all the time.
The exact same thing.
We say that all the time.
Yeah. So the thing is this, my one most extreme patient, where she was very, very compliant. And it started off by applying it and then washing it off after an hour. Because when she left it on, she would get a retinoid reaction, you see. So we did that for quite a while, and we were doing it once every 3 to 4 days. Mm-hmm. Because the vitamin A in the skin has got a sort of life cycle of about 5 days, something like that. So then we got her to leave it on for the night, and once a week. And then we started with, she could use it once a night for, say, 3 nights running. And we slowly got her onto using what everybody else was using right at the beginning.
And now she can do it because she's built up the receptors.
Not only that, but we have a retinol series where we have the creams going to 50,000 and we have the retinols going to 50,000. And she ended up, after about 12 years, using the maximum dose of the cream plus the maximum dose of the retinol.
Retinols.
And she had very beautiful skin. She had lots of freckles that, we never took a before photograph.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah.
Too bad. It would be so good to see that. Yeah, it just goes to show, though, with time, patience, don't try to go too quickly if you have that kind of skin that reacts.
Yes.
Just
And,
acclimation is very important.
Yes, this is our difficulty. We try and persuade the people, look, we got five levels, but you're not allowed to go up there, and you've got to graduate up to there.
Yeah.
Lots of people say, oh, I've got tough skin.
Yeah,
I'll take the strongest, and then they throw it away, and they say, that's real junk.
Yeah,
product.
exactly.
Yeah, then retinol gets a bad rep overall because of people using it incorrectly. Or people purchasing products that doesn't really contain retinol, like does nothing anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
So it does. I always hear people like talk negative, like people love retinol or they hate it. Like they really, there's quite a divide in what people think that it's like really good for your skin. It's amazing, this and this. And other people are like, oh no, it's not for me. It's not a good ingredient. It's not worth it. Which is interesting.
I'm allergic to it. I'm allergic to vitamin A.
Oh yeah, no, that's yeah.
Anyways, this has been so, I mean, I know quite a bit about retinol, I feel like, but I really learned so much today. And, I thought like your honesty with everything was just really great. Like I'm really, I feel good about it. I feel like I've understood, even after all the years that I'm in the industry, I really feel like I have a better understanding of it. Yeah,
because you clarified so much. So now we'd like to move into our signature questions. Tashi's going to ask them.
Yeah, I just have we always do like rapid questions. So whatever comes quickly to mind. What does healthy skin mean to you?
For me, it means protected by vitamin A.
Yeah, amazing.
When all the healthiest skins that I've seen are protected by vitamin A.
Amazing. I love it. If you can leave your listeners with one piece of advice for healthy skin, what would it be besides retinol A?
Be intelligent about how much sun you expose yourself to. For example, I'll say to people, you should expose yourself at midday for, depending on the skin type, from 3 minutes to as much as 20 minutes. And that's a way to get really healthy skin.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you
Every
so
day
much.
at the midday. In the midday, and that's when everybody's saying, don't go out in the sun at the midday period.
Yeah, that's the strongest UVs.
But if you have to, but they must listen to you only for the time that it takes their skin to start becoming pink. And then they must go out of the sun.
And I have one last question for you. It's one last. Yeah. Is using SPF absolutely mandatory?
Every day. Depends where you live. Sometimes some of the SPF creams can help us with the computer screens, say. Mm-hmm. But antioxidants are going to do that much better. I think I'm a bit of an iconoclast about the SPF.
Okay.
Because I think if you're using vitamin A, you're using antioxidants, you're protecting your skin much better than and safely than any SPF, because those chemicals get absorbed into your skin, into your bloodstream, and we don't know what they do. But we know that the incidence of cancer in skin cancer in America has increased with the rise in the SPF. And I don't know whether the people are deluded. They use the SPF as to stay longer in the sun, and so they get greater damage. I don't know what the answer is to that, but it is something we have to take note of.
So it's more substantial. Like if you're going to pick one or the other, it's more important to you to be using retinol A and antioxidants than it is to be using just SPF.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For me, there's the SPF is never as good as.
Okay.
But if I'm going to use an SPF, then I might say, okay, then let's use the minerals.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely
Instead-
mineral. Yeah, definitely mineral. And make sure
Yeah.
to use your antioxidant and your retinol.
Just
So if
use
you're
all
using
three
all
at this
three,
point.
that's the best thing.
Yeah, and then that, yes.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
This
But
has
I've heard
been,
of that, I tell people to reapply after 2 hours in the
Yes.
sun.
yes.
And then I found out from some people, they're trying to reapply even though they're in the office the whole day.
Okay.
And you start thinking, don't you, why don't you realize that you're not in the sunlight?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
There's so much information out there. It's hard for people to know exactly what to do.
Yes.
Thank you so much
and
for today.
contracting, and that's why what you're doing, I think, is so important.
Thank you.
People have to realize that I'm listening to you and I understand your experience. And so you're in a position to advise people, and then they'll get a sort of derogatory comment from their doctor. I don't know if you've encountered this.
Yes.
But I know in skincare, the dermatologist says something that is totally at odds with what
Yes.
the skincare therapist may have said. And of course, the skincare therapist is the fool.
Yeah.
Of course.
Instead of understanding the skincare therapist has spent so much time becoming educated
Yeah.
in the field just of a tiny little area of medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what one of my missions is that skincare therapists have to be better appreciated by the general public.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree.
We couldn't agree with you more on that.
Yeah. And we actually recently had a conversation with a dermatologist who, for the first time in my experience speaking with dermatologists, actually had a very healthy skin approach.
Yeah.
And it was very refreshing. And it's the first time because within our industry, we do hear a lot about what the dermatologist says is better than what the skin specialists are saying. But when we spoke to Dr. Cohen, it was actually the first time where he was like, no, blah, blah, blah. He had both, which I thought was very refreshing.
Yeah,
and I was like,
refreshing.
okay, so maybe things are changing a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
I think they should join forces.
Yes.
absolutely.
I-
Absolutely.
Of course.
And with Skin Talks that we're trying to bridge that. We're
Yeah.
trying to bridge that, bringing science, medicine, and practical tips to people so that people actually can make very good choices for themselves based on information that they listen to from different areas of expertise. It's been such a
think it's
pleasure
valuable.
talking to you.
Thank you so
We
much.
really do appreciate your time.
Yeah, honestly, it was such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Skin Talks.
If this episode inspired you, taught you something new, or just made you feel seen, please share with someone you love. And if you believe in thoughtful and empowering conversations that help you make better choices for yourself around your beauty and wellness, please rate and review the show. It helps us to grow our community, and we deeply appreciate it. Because this isn't just about skin.
It's about claiming your beauty, feeling strong, informed, and at home in yourself.
See you next week.